I'm Mark Peace. I'm for the Faculty of Education and I teach on a range of programmes, including our undergraduate education studies programme. Okay, so at the core of the session is a series of really short videos that I've made in which I'm playing various Cluedo characters. And each of those characters has a slightly different take on a central crime, which is a kid who hasn't achieved. What the students then do is they interact with a Cluedo board which has QR codes printed on it with their mobile phones and iPads. And as they blip them, they get the little videos. They visit the resources twice. In the first instance, they're looking at it for substance. We took some feedback on that, we had some conversations. And then what I did was I introduced some basic principles of logic and reason to the students. So some really basic logical fallacies. When I was recording the videos, I tried to build some of those fallacies into what the characters were saying so that when they could revisit them, they were able to draw out examples that illustrate some of the problems, things like confusing correlation with causation and straw man arguments, which do you commonly find in public debate around education. One of the things that I'm really interested in is the qualities of the first year student experience in particular, and the degrees to which they're able to act legitimately as academics from the earliest stages at university. There's a tendency for HE curriculums in general to be very, very knowledge and understanding heavy, and that tends to fall very, very heavily on the first year. And then eventually what happens as they get to the third year is they're allowed space to act a little bit more legitimately as an academic, where you start to do your dissertation and take ownership over the things you're interested in. The project I've been involved in is trying to flip that round so that right from the very earliest days of their experience, students are acting as academics. It's not a sense that they're gradually immersing themselves into a culture and earning the right to take ownership over their own inquiry. It's an expectation right from the very beginning that that's the kind of way that they're going to behave. Within that, the thing that I've been really interested in this term is about the nature of criticality. And I've got this sneaking suspicion that we tend to treat criticality as something that's dispositional. So we expect our students to have critical impulse, to be capable of those skills and competencies that we would kind of label as critical practice. But then my question is the degree to which the spaces that we create for them actually allow them to perform in ways that are critical. So the session that you've come to see is kind of couched in those terms of reference. It's all about the substance of the session is about barriers to learning and what it is that stops learners from learning in the first place. And I wanted to avoid a series of lectures that thematically took them through those barriers. And instead, I wanted them to start off with their critical instincts, getting their teeth into some of the debates and discourses that you encounter around the topic. So the importance of the first year experience. It is your opportunity, is our opportunity as an institution to embed in those students a set of practices which will sustain them throughout the rest of their university career. It's a place where if you embed autonomy, if you embed criticality as things that not only are you expected to do, but they are the core of your student experience. They are what being a student, what makes it exciting, what makes it a rewarding set of experiences. If we embed those right from the very beginning, they become sustainable qualities that the student carries with them for the rest of their degree. We're not suddenly asking them to turn around when they hit that dissertation stage and grab ownership over the things that they're interested in. And consequently, where you're trying to embed things like blended learning in both the new technology sense and the slightly more informal sense. So blended learning in terms of engaging with Moodle, but also blended learning in terms of the incidental conversations you have with peers. It's the ways in which you make those connections with the broader student experience. So I think laying those foundations in the first year is really key to realising student satisfaction as those students go through, because they learn to understand the breadth of their experience at MMU. They learn to appreciate the opportunities available to them that cascade beyond that contact with a singular academic. In terms of the messages that I'd like to convey to other staff, it's to do with the degree of freedom that we have as practitioners in higher education. As HE practitioners, we have at the core of what we do an awful lot of autonomy in how we orient students to the ideas, to the fields, to the ways of thinking of the things that we teach. And I think there's almost an ethical imperative that we should embrace those things, grab hold of them, and elbow the space that maybe doesn't happen in compulsory education and lead the way in those kind of ways. So finding ways of disrupting the banking model of education, where we're depositing all of this knowledge in students' heads, and finding better ways of getting them to critically orient, to be practitioners within our fields rather than to be immersed in the content that our fields suggest that they should be.
Well, I like the fact of it was an experimental lesson when we did one of the tasks. It wasn't necessarily saying our ideas were wrong, but it was saying like there's more than one way of looking at things.
I liked it because I liked the structure of the lesson, so I liked that you were sort of given a chance to try and make sense of it on your own first, and then given the information so that then it sort of clicked and you could go back and look at it in a different way.
I thought it was really engaging in the lesson. I like doing group work anyway, and I found it very practical. There was a few big words in there, I have to admit, and it's a lot of information to take, but the fact that there's handouts you can take home, and we've got the frameworks of the understanding, so that was really good. And being able to use your phone and watch videos, which were very funny. Yeah, it was a really good lesson. I loved it.
If you would like to take part in the Good Practice Exchange, you can go to celt.mmu.ac.uk/goodpractice/contribute and tell us about your project or idea.